And appreciate your all's attendance this morning. And this is our business meeting for the 8th day of December. It's hard to believe it's December already, and we're staring down the end of the year. We've got a full agenda and some good things to talk about. But before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to recognize the passing of our dear friend Rand Marshall, and also gentleman, Coach Billy Hicks, that made a significant impact on so many young people's lives here in Scott County as our Scott County High School basketball coach, and just a great role model, had a great work ethic, and just had that focus and made such a big difference in so many young people's lives as a coach, and truly will miss both of them. I wanted to go back and both of these are just shocking and very makes you reflect about yourself and about their relationship with you, and then the community and what they did in the community, and things that they did in the background that nobody ever saw just because it was what they were. But I do want to read a proclamation that Cam had done that we passed when Rand retired, just so people that might be listening to this that didn't hear this previously just had a little insight to Rand. And Rand's funeral was yesterday, and it was a celebration of Rand's life and a celebration of Rand. I believe that Coach Hicks's funeral, or celebration of life, I should say, is Sunday at the Scott County High School gym at 1 o'clock. So I'll read this proclamation. Honoring Rand Marshall for a dedicated career of service to the Scott County Attorney's Office. Whereas Rand was born and raised in Scott County, Kentucky, and whereas Mr. Marshall joined the Scott County Attorney's Office as an assistant Scott County attorney on June 17, 1991, and whereas Mr. Marshall has served as Scott County attorney since June 1st, 2017, he retired on August 1st, 2022, after serving 31 years in our office. Whereas Mr. Marshall has served Scott County in many important ways, including by advising fiscal court, prosecuting crimes, and helping victims. Whereas Mr. Marshall has maintained a private law practice providing legal service to numerous individuals and organizations. Whereas Mr. Marshall formerly served as the Sadieville City Attorney and as the Georgetown Scott County Parks and Recreation Board Attorney. And whereas Mr. Marshall has been married to his wife Kim for 21 years and is the proud father of Reese Marshall and stepfather of Aaron Alred and Evan Sharp. And whereas Mr. Marshall has been guided throughout his years of service by his Christian faith and is a member of the Tates Creek Presbyterian Church and leads a weekly independent men's Bible study. And whereas Mr. Marshall has provided pro bono legal representation to various individuals and organizations and has served on the boards of Providence Christian Academy, Trinity Christian Academy, and the Amen House. So now, therefore, let it be known that Scott County Fiscal Court and Judge Executive Joe Pat Covington hereby honor and praise Rand Marshall for his long career of distinguished and dedicated service in the Scott County Attorney's Office. And we wanted to congratulate Rand on his retirement back on the 28th day of July last year. And, this just gives you a little insight. But, at the funeral yesterday, he was truly a good friend and truly a good man, and did so many things for people, and he will definitely be missed. And would like to have a moment of silence here in a minute, but also like, if anybody would like to make any comments about Rand or about Coach Hicks.
Do you remember what we did after you read that?
We played Rand's favorite band, which is Night Ranger, and we played Sister Christian. But I did not realize, but Rand's favorite song is it Journey or the?
I think it was Goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah.
Goodbye. Yeah. Which I didn't know, but
they
played that yesterday.
They played that yesterday. But it was very appropriate, Stacy. Yes, when we read this and his retirement, but truly will be missed. Just, Cam, you want to add anything?
A lot of things were said yesterday, and but I guess what I'd like to say about Rand and what I said yesterday is I appreciated his compassionate heart, his kindness toward others. He did not ever act like he was above anyone. He treated everybody the same with the same level of respect and kindness. And there was a scripture read yesterday from, I think, Micah, which the gist of it is to practice justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. And that's the way that I believe Rand lived his life, and it's the way he acted in his job. So that's what I want to say about him.
No, I definitely would agree with you. And, all those are so true. But he had a wit about him and this dry sense of humor. And very witty, very funny. And he'd say things off the wall like just out of the blue. And we'll miss that, definitely. Yeah. But anytime he walked into the office, like Stacy was sitting there, he gave everybody nicknames. And he'd say, well, good morning, Stace, or whatever it was. He always had this warm way of greeting you and such, and just a special person. And then, I worked with Coach Hicks when I was at Scott County High School as the head principal, assistant principal, athletic director, and he coached my son, and good man. Let's, if you'll join me, let's take a moment of silence. Thank you all. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll then call the roll.
Let us pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hamilton, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
He is on.
Mr. Corman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison? Mr. Pratt?
Here.
Mr. Livingston? Mr. Culbertson?
Here.
Judge Covington?
Present. There's Mr. Wallace right there, just to confirm. Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. With that said, the first item that we need to consider are the minutes from our previous meeting. Are there any questions or comments related to those meeting minutes as presented?
Motion.
Motion for Mr. Corman, a second for Mr. Hostetler. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Transfers. Any questions or comments? Motion for Mr. Pratt, second for Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bills and hand checks. The one reflected there, general fund to jail fund, $300,000. Questions or comments?
Motion.
Motion for Mr. Hostetler, second for Mr. Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Let the record reflect that Sheriff Tony Hampton submitted fees in the amount of $37,025.21. Also, let the record reflect that the sheriff has collected property taxes in the amount of $3,021,697.82. And then finally, let the record reflect that the clerk has submitted fees. The clerk, Rebecca Johnson, has submitted fees in the amount of $138,851.37. Any questions or comments there?
The clerk's not on there because it was just like 15 minutes ago.
So that was submitted, and we have that documented in the record. Thank you. We'll now turn this over to Jeff Mudrack, and Cam Culbertson to make comment on a recommendation for county attorney, new assistant county attorney hire.
Yeah, good morning. You may recall 2 meetings ago we approved the creation of a new assistant county attorney position. I'm coming to you with a recommendation to fill that position. It is Vincent Morris. He's slated to begin on Tuesday, January the 2nd at $86,805. He got his JD in law from the University of Dayton and has 4 years of related experience. He's been working at a private law firm for the last little bit. So I present to you the name of Vincent Morris. And Cam, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I would just add that I've known Vinny, he goes by Vinny, for several years. He's worked in the public defender's office, so I've always liked and respected the job he did. So it's kind of a no-brainer for us, and he has a good relationship already with our staff and court folks and lives here in the community, so we're excited about having him.
I thought he had worked in a role
Yeah.
in the system.
Yeah, we actually had a lot of cases against him for a long time, but we always, he's a ethical, hardworking guy that I think he'll be a good addition to our office and county.
Rick and I were discussing the recommendation. I told Rick
Yeah,
that he goes by Vinny, and he said, "Well, we've got Vito, and now we've got Vinny." That's what Rick made comment.
I'm sure he'd be happy to go.
He's in good company,
He'd
is what.
certainly play along with that.
Comments or questions from anyone on the court?
Motion.
A motion from Rick,
Thank you, Vinny.
and then a second from Mr. Pratt. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. It's good that he will help focus on that child support area. And
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good.
very, very constructive.
Appreciate your all support of that.
Next one is a HR intern
Yes.
consideration. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm glad to recommend the appointment of Jasmine Bear as our HR intern. She'll start on January 22nd at $10 an hour. She's looking at pursuing a bachelor's in business administration and is interested in the HR field.
Questions or comments?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. Corman. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. EMS new hires.
Yes, we have 2 in the EMS department. So on behalf of Chris Running, I'm pleased to recommend Kayla Royce as a paramedic beginning January 2nd at $17.03, and Landon Humphreys as an EMT beginning January 2nd as well. His pay rate will be $14.84 an hour. They both come to us with a little bit of experience. Kayla having more experience, having about 4 years with the Paris Fire Department. So glad to have some new experienced people joining our staff.
Did you say they're full-time?
Yes, they're both full-time. And does that leave us one vacancy, Chris? Yeah, we have one vacancy remaining.
That was next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still, it's we kind of, you never get there, do you? Where you fully staffed and somebody, what? Yeah. But it's better than it has been. Is that not right? I mean, because you're getting more applications, right? And
Yeah, we're doing better with, we've been getting more paramedic applications, which is a big plus. I mean, usually those are a little hard to come by, but we've actually had some competition for the paramedic position, which is
what we want, isn't it?
Exactly.
Where you
Good.
can,
I think CAPA put out a report, was it a couple weeks ago, that said there's 4,000 registered paramedics in the state, but there's only 2,500 active right now, paramedics in the state. So we're really drawing from a
small pool.
small pool of active paramedics.
And the fact that we are only maybe one short,
It's
speaks well
amazing.
to our department, I think, all things considered. So,
Motion.
Motion. Second. Mr. Pratt. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And then Mr. Ward, Chief Ward, and Jeff.
yes, we have 2 firefighter vacancies right now. And what we did is we posted an experienced lateral hire position, and luckily Fabian Shields has applied for the position. He has been or was a firefighter with us, retired on July 31st of this year, and he's decided to return to the fire service. So we are recommending bringing him back as one of our firefighters. He has more than 20 years experience. He'll start back with us tomorrow, if you all approve it, at $15.68 an hour.
How does that work for like retirement? Does that, I don't know how that system
We
works.
still pay into it, but there's no benefit to the employee.
And that's something you and I have discussed, because for law enforcement, we don't
They
have
can
to
hire
pay
back as
in.
retirees, yeah.
I think that'll take something, which we ought to talk to Senator Thayer or Representative Pratt. That'll take something at the state level. I think it's why law enforcement's like it is, on being able to hire them, work out your own deal, but no benefits.
It really makes a difference, in my opinion.
Well-
And the fire service, in my opinion, should fall under the same umbrella.
Yeah, that ought to be looked into.
I'll maybe Magistrate Pratt and I can speak to the state rep and have a
Do you
conversation.
know him? Motion,
But there
Judge.
is no payment into the health insurance plan. They stay on the retiree health insurance.
And that's a benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
So motion from Mr. Hostetler,
Second.
second from Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, one more quick, just to understand, Jeff, and I think you already said it, but we are paying to the retirement,
We
but
pay into
not
retirement. We
on
pay
his
the-
behalf.
But it does not do any additional benefit for him.
For him, I mean.
We are
Yeah, we pay
required.
the hazardous
So
duty
it just goes
retirement.
into like the general fund but
It
no
just
benefit
offsets
to the
liability of
individual.
other people, is what it does.
Yeah, so,
So
okay,
if we could
thank
get
you.
it changed, it would help county governments across the state.
Exactly.
And city governments.
Yeah, and thank you. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Now, Extension Board appointments and reappointments. I am going to, this has been shared by email. I'm going to recommend from the list that was shared that we consider John Bell and Dale Glass. Questions or comments?
Are those reappointments or,
Those would be.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Motion from Kelly Corman. Second from Mr. Hostetler. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Tourism Board, appointments, reappointments. These are joint appointments, and I have talked with Lori at length, and I have talked with Mayor Jenkins. And, you have the different categories. Hotel, short-term rental category, I would like from the list, after talking with Mayor Jenkins, for your consideration, Jane Hale. Jane owns the Bluebird Studio here on Main Street, and both Lori and Mayor Jenkins believe that she would be a new board member that would add a lot to the board. And then going to the restaurant section, the restaurant nomination, I would like you to consider from that list, after talking with Mayor Jenkins and Lori, the Daniel Harrison. He is.
He's currently on it, isn't he?
He's currently on it, but he would be changing to this restaurant section, nominee section, and then Chamber of Commerce would a familiar name. Their recommendation is Lee Carter from the. He's currently director of the Kentucky Horse Park, but desires to come back and help. And I definitely think it'd be a win for having Lee back on the board. He's served before in the past, and it's just a plus. So, questions or comments from those three names?
Daniel is currently the restaurant selection already.
He is already? Okay. So if he'd gone in as hotel, it would have been a switch. I apologize for the miscommunication. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
So Daniel is the current.
He is the
Yeah, 'cause
current.
I actually got a little bit
Yeah.
mixed up on that.
Yeah, so
My fault.
he is the current restaurant nominee, but would be a reappointment. And by state statute,
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say, that we have a two-term limit local ordinance, but that is superseded by state statutes, which says there shall be no limitation on the number of terms for tourism commission. So you can reappoint him.
Yeah, so
However many terms you want.
should we change our,
No, we have verbiage in our local ordinance that says except as, it accounts for, it says something like except as prohibited by state law. So we acknowledge in our ordinance that there could be state statutes that differ from what we're saying.
so we need individual motion or
I think we
motion
can do
for
the
all
three.
three? So moved.
So moved. Second for Mr. Pratt. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. After speaking with Patty Burnside of the library and reviewing the letter from the Labor Cabinet, Education and Labor Cabinet, there are two names to fill a vacant position on our library board. And Mr. William Riley and Julie Watts McKee. Mr. Riley has been a nominee a few times in the past and was interviewed, and I personally, he's been a nominee for several, a few times. So I would entertain and recommend a recommendation for Mr. Riley. Would there be a motion to?
I'd make a motion for Mr. Riley.
All right. Got a motion for Mr. Corman, second for Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And then Parks and Recreation Board reappointment. Mr. Temple Jewett, who has served on our Parks and Rec Board. This would be a reappointment for Mr. Jewett, and I have spoken with Mr. Jewett. Mr. Jewett, as you know, has volunteered to head up be chair of our reservoir property. Now it's Lytle's Fork Recreation Area Advisory Board, and has been very active in that for us, and has been very active on the Parks and Rec Board, and he is willing to serve again. So it'd be I'll just make the motion that Mr. Jewett be reappointed. Second, Mr. Hostetler with the second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So that moves us down to the holiday schedule. You all received that holiday schedule. Any questions or comments? And as you know, it mirrors the state. I would entertain at this time comments from any board, from any magistrate about the potential of officially moving our meeting times to 6 o'clock starting with our next calendar year. Now, we've had much discussion about this. I know there are pluses and minuses, but let's talk about this right now. And does anybody feel strongly about keeping it at 7, and does anybody feel strongly about moving it to 6?
Judge, I've thought a little bit more about it because I've always kind of been a proponent of leaving it at 7, but in the past, and I have a few years of experience. Most of the time, I guess what I'm driving at is, I think Rob mentioned it before, about moving to 6 instead of 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. on that Thursday night meeting. I could be in favor of that because most people, when they have an issue like some of the other boards, I think planning and zoning meets at about that time. And so folks, if they know the schedule, they know the time frame, they can organize this and still maybe have to get off work a little early. Because I know Kelly's made comments, and I agree with that. People trying to get off work and get something to eat and get here. But I would be in favor of moving it to 6 p.m.
Everybody knows how I feel on it because I've been pushing it for a while, but I think we're the only board that meets at 7 o'clock. I think every other board meets at 6. And like Rick said, that does set it to where everybody thinks it's going to be at 6. So
Kelly, what's your feelings?
I still like the 7. I'm not opposed. We can do 6, but I still think, like, I always look back at my schedule in banking. We close the bank at 6, and if I was trying to get to a meeting, it'd been nice not have to take off work early, but it doesn't bother me. I'm fine with 6.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not hardly, I mean, same thing with me. Like we're younger. I usually have to wait till my wife gets home, or I'd have to bring my kids here for 6 sometimes. So my 2 9 and 10-year-olds. But I think there are a lot of people will be in that position, like to come to a meeting at 6. They have to wait for somebody to get home, or try to get home and to watch their kids. But I'm not opposed to 6 either. You know, we can make it work. We'll figure it out.
Now, it's my opinion that we're considering the holiday schedule as one motion, but then the second motion possibly is,
Well, the 6 o'clock thing is in the ordinance, so Cam will have to just do a first reading at the next meeting.
so that's why I was saying it had to be in a separate consideration to amend the ordinance. I mean, do we need, I mean, there's no reason we can't wait till the next meeting and amend it on paper, but I just wanted to bring it up because it's been brought to me again when we started talking about.
I was just thinking you don't need to vote on it today.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to vote on.
No, so all right. So with that said, then, we will consider this holiday schedule as presented, and then we will come back at the next meeting with a first reading for amendment of the ordinance for meeting time. Any other questions about the holiday schedule? Would there be a motion?
Make a motion for the holiday.
Kelly Corman, second Mr. Jones. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. New business. I have 5 items here in new business, and I will start with the bid for the farmer's market. We have Monica Sumner on the Zoom. She is there. Hello, good morning, Monica. I shared with the court, Monica, and you've seen the email that I shared, and the bid tab sheet and some additional notes about that bid. We had, previously had one bidder. We rejected that bid. It was over 1.9 for a base bid. In this round of bidding, Marilla Design and Construction made a base bid of 1.486. They also, in a separate consideration, would like the court to consider a contingency of $148,600. We do not have to do that. It's just saying that if there is some overage, that would be through a change order. Correct, Monica?
Can't hear.
Yeah, Monica, I think you got to turn your sound up. No, we're struggling. I think
it's the speakers in here. I hear it coming through your phone.
Yeah.
I think it's the speakers in here.
Sam is working on it as we're. Let's try one more time, Monica.
So I can hear on your phone.
And we're going to get feedback. All right. Technology.
Don't you love it?
We love it. Anyway, Monica, you can't talk, so as you know, write it down. You can text me, but I think Sam's trying to work on it. So let me just kind of talk through this. There was a alternate for wood decking that would be, the ceiling underneath, under the awning there on the structure. And that's a base bid of $92,000. That was an alternate bid of $92,000. The only question that I had was that there were 3 bids, and there was one bid that was considerably less. And I have that question. And then there was an alternate 2 parking lot overlay and striping for $41,000. Is my opinion not to consider that right now. They will patch
Yesterday.
they will patch
Wait a
the,
minute.
where they put in the footers and dig any, they've got to do a little utility movement. But in my opinion, we can forego that.
I went down
The
too
next
far.
question, alternate was $39,000 for the cupola. You know, we were just trying to save money and made that an alternate. I would value input from you all on any of these, but especially that one.
Well, I thought Dwayne made a good comment on that. He said everyone in the school system leaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we could do without that.
All right.
That's my opinion.
No, and that's a great point, Kelly. And then add alternate four RV. That was the EV charging stations at 21,000. My question to Monica would have been, and we will. Now I've got to just give me 1 second. I got to add Sam back to this meeting. Sam's trying to fix it. Hey, Chip, tell him I restarted the meeting. No, he's not showing up to asking to be admitted. I got him now. Now he's the host. All right. Hopefully we'll get that navigated. But back to this conversation. And then there were we talked about the EV charging stations. My question to Monica is, one of the questions is, is the electricity stubbed out that we could add that later if you wanted? And I think we could get that done. And that would be my recommendation, instead of spending the $21,000 now, just having it stubbed out to where it can be added.
Would the county then have to pay for the electricity?
Well, I think you'd have a credit card machine that.
Could have.
That's what I was going to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Is this like somebody can just plug up and charge, or is this like a?
No, they'd have a credit card machine that they'd have to put in, just like you go anywhere else.
Walmart.
That's what Walmart does.
Yeah, but it's all the thought was is you'd have that option there, because BEVs are, I think it's going to continue to be something to consider. As long as we had it stubbed out, then you could add it. But I'm sure you all know more. Like, wouldn't we have to make considerations in the service box to handle that type
Size of the service, yeah.
So I would like to instruct them to make sure that it was considered in the service, stubbed out, and then we could add it later. And then there were 0 bids of the 3 for the alternate of the wood structure. Nobody bid on that. So we have 1.486 as the base. It's, in my opinion, to accept the base bid and move on. We have put a lot of consideration, a lot of work. We have $250,000 from the Kentucky Department of Ag as a grant. We have another $50,000 commitment from the Ag Extension Board separately. That's $300,000 that would decrease that price down to 1.186. We budgeted in the budget. Michelle confirmed. She and I looked at it again. We budgeted $1 million as a placeholder for this in this year's budget. So, questions, comments, whatever else you all would be the pleasure of the court.
The naming rights again, is it? any
That has
movement on
been
that?
withdrawn. My intent, that bid was put out. We've negotiated at length and talked about things. One of the sticking points was being able to continue to have the opportunity to extend it into a second term. So Cam and I are going to talk about language that we could put into a bid that would navigate that. My intent is to put a bid back out, and my intent was to ask you to allow me to do that through a separate motion here in a minute to do that. So I don't want to count on any of that. That would be like, icing on a cake. But, I intend to put that back out and see if we have, see if we can to realize any return on that. Other questions?
What did you say the difference was? I was trying to find it. I know you put it all in the email. With what's been budgeted,
The $300,000 that we have committed as a grant from 250 and then 50,
right?
that would get it down to 1.186. We have 1 million budgeted in this year's budget.
1.186. That's 186,000. So are we, when we're voting, are we going to vote separately on the alternates, or
Well, if
because we're
someone
talking
wants
about
to make
not,
a motion to accept a base bid plus an alternate, then that we certainly would entertain that.
because it sounds like we wouldn't want the cupola. It sounds like we've got to decide that. So there's 39,000 if we take the lowest base bid, right?
Yeah.
Am I looking at that right?
Yep.
So that chips down on that.
No, it's not included.
What'd you say now?
The base bid doesn't include any of those.
Those are all extras.
That's true.
Those are all alternates.
Yeah. Thank you.
The,
Yes, I was looking at that wrong.
I mean, to me, I think the cupola should be there just for aesthetics more than anything. If somebody's gonna look at naming it, putting their name on it, the better looking building, better chance you're gonna have of getting somebody to put their name on it. We're not putting a wood ceiling in, so if we don't have to worry about it leaking. It's just my.
The aesthetics of it
Yes.
and the potential, and I haven't seen a rendering without it on it. We've seen all the renderings with it. Kelly, what's your comment to that?
I'm fine with putting one on there. I'm just looking at ways to save money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in the bid because it seems like every time we bid something, it's going over anymore, so.
Yeah.
And then I also don't care to help lead the charge to go back to tourism and ask for, if we're turning this over to them to make money off of, to ask them to,
So I have had conversations with Lori and the potential of that. I've asked for their consideration. I will check back with them and report back to the court. But I have, since this went back out to bid again, have had that conversation for consideration. And one of the things that they mentioned was, is there bathrooms? And there's no bathrooms. The bathrooms would cost, Sam, Monica Sumner is waiting to get in the waiting room. If you could let her in, and that way she can join back in the conversation, see if she can hear us or talk. There's no bathrooms, and tourism really would love to have bathrooms, because when they bring motor coach tourism through, it would add a place for them to pull in, to let people out, stretch your legs, use the restroom and walk up and see downtown, that kind of thing. But you all know as well as I do, if you go to add bathrooms, you're adding $300,000-$400,000. And could bathrooms be added later on the end as a kind of a addition to the thing? Yeah. I'm just trying to move the project forward, and I think we have worked on it. We've done our due diligence. Monica, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
We are still struggling with audio. I am so sorry, Monica, for wasting your time.
That's okay.
Hey, Monica, you can hear me? The court, I've got the court, you were on speaker. I apologize for the technical difficulty, but I think everybody can hear you now. You know, we've kind of talked through the bid tabulation sheet, and one of the comments from Magistrate Jones, and I respect the comment, is that, you know, that for the aesthetic purposes, he's in favor of considering the cupola addition. There was a concern brought about the cupola's leaking, but you know, I know they would make every effort to make sure it doesn't, but you know, the high cost on the alternate wood decking underneath that would kind of help with the birds. I just, there was three bids on that wood decking, and one was considerably less than the other two. You know, is that something that we can have a conversation with Marilla about why that was so high, and was there any other options to maybe reduce that cost?
We can, yes.
Okay.
Could we look at the, like, nets? Like Keeneland has, you know what I'm talking about? Like the...
Yeah, that is used some places. Just the aesthetics of that, the netting kind of thing is, maybe we can have a side conversation and bring this back, but we can approve a base bid and then we can negotiate these other things as a change order if we want. Can we?
We can. Now, the wood decking is strictly an aesthetic treatment. So we can even wait until we get out of the ground and see if that's something that's possible with the budget. But we certainly can have conversations about that. And there may be a way to look at a different species or a different method to get that cost down.
But the wood decking was going to assist with the potential of a bird issue. I mean, am I imagining that, or is that?
I think so.
Okay. Won't be the first time.
Yeah, it is strictly an aesthetic, which is why we bid it as an alternate, because it is not required, you know, for any functioning of the project.
Okay.
But could be added at a later time.
Okay. And then could we have the electric service, could the specs on it be installed to handle future charging stations and the electricity conduit stubbed out to that area, but have it where we can add it at a later date?
Yeah, we could. The panel size would determine that, so that's easy to handle.
Okay. And then the last thing that, you know, I shared from Mike's email, you know, this is 114 by 114, including the overhang. That's the dimensions. And this includes the relocation of the access drive from North Broadway to remove traffic from entering the site directly adjacent to the structure.
Yes.
This also includes the removal of some existing storm sewer lines beneath the building,
Yes.
as additionally adding the new storm sewer, and then relocating some pole lights,
Yes.
and some new electrical service for lighting and electrical outlets at the building. And then it will bring some water service, you know, because we wanted water to be able to hose down the area to keep it clean. Now, this bid includes a wall where the electric service will be mounted, a masonry wall. Is that correct? And,
That's correct.
And it's not a closet like, you know, but the water can be in that wall with a key that would control access to the water.
Correct.
Okay. What other questions does anybody have?
Was this the first bid we talked about shortening it? Did we shorten it, or is this
No,
the
this
original?
Is,
this
this
original
is the
link?
original 114 by 114.
Correct.
Any other questions? Would there be a motion?
Is your motion for base bid only?
Well, it's whatever the court wants to entertain. The base bid plus the cupola has been mentioned. The base bid only has been mentioned.
I'd make the motion to accept it with the cupola included.
Base bid
the
plus
alternate for the
cupola.
I just haven't seen it without the cupola. I don't know what it's gonna look like.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Mr. Hosteller. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just one comment.
Comment from Mr. Hosteller.
Back to the restrooms. I know that every summer I stop multiple times usually at the market, and a lot of times it's just to check and see how it's going and talk to the folks.
Maybe
and
get a tomato.
Well, I raised
You
my
raise
own.
your. We know that, Rick. We know.
But I have bought tomatoes down there actually. But that was the number one issue. Anytime that, in fact, I was looking for a friend of mine. He had his table and everything was set up, and somebody said, "Well, he's at the jail." And I went, "What happened?"
He was arrested for selling zucchini.
I mean, I did not know, but that kudos to Jailer Broyles and his staff. They've been allowing and accommodating folks to come in from the market. The workers there. I don't think that the general public goes, but it'd still be a benefit for the general public, but especially for those workers who come and set up. They're down there 5-6 hours, I'm sure, at least.
General public goes too.
Do they? So I didn't know that answer, but I do know that the workers, the people, setting up their displays and selling their goods, I know they're using the jail on a regular basis, which I'm thankful for, because that's a pretty tough deal. So you and I have had this conversation as well. Maybe I'm a little bit off track here, but back to the restrooms, you looked up some portable type applications, and we probably still need to look into that, even if tourism wants to help out. Because down the road, I think the bathrooms are going to be the next needed thing, in my view. I realize the expense, and it's the only tough thing. Because I live in this world of construction. When we build this thing and make it all back pretty again, when you go to add something like utilities, like bathrooms, you're going to tear up a lot of stuff again, and it's.
So, Monica, along those lines, if you wanted to add a bathroom to the end of this structure in the future, you've got water running to the one end. How hard would it be to look at the possibility of stubbing out sanitary when we do this, and then you have it sitting there and you not have to, like you could, you wouldn't have to dig up the whole parking lot again if the water service and the sanitary were stubbed, we're going to use the water, but if the sanitary was stubbed out, could we have that as a conversation?
We could.
Okay.
We could.
And I know, like, if I asked you to draw up plans for a bathroom in the future, we could do that.
We could, yes.
And make it look nice. I mean, but the bathroom would be, in my mind, would only be open when the market's open and tourism could have keys to it to open it.
Yeah.
That would be.
Sure.
And if there was an event that tourism was hosting, then it could be open. But the issue of having it cleaned and the maintenance is a real issue, and that would have to be addressed as well.
My thought is, and I think Monica understands and probably agrees, but just to get that infrastructure, the tap to the sewer line, to decide where you want, if we put a bathroom, where you're going to put it, then you can put a little bit. That's not that costly while the excavate. And I know it's going to cost money, but not like having to go dig the parking lot up again.
Right.
And
then pave back over.
So if we can say, hey, we're going to potentially look at a bathroom down here in such and such spot, then you could put. It wouldn't be that costly to put the infrastructure in, is what I'm thinking.
No, I agree, Rick, and we'll ask Monica to navigate that and then get a cost for stubbing that out.
Was the sewer line one of the lines that has to be moved?
No, it's all storm. It's storm what we're moving, right, Monica?
Correct, yes.
So we'd have to locate the nearest sanitary and look at stubbing into that. So we have a motion and we have a second for the base plus cupola, and Any other questions or comments?
One other comment.
Yes, sir.
Just because I've visited, like I say, 2 or 3 times this summer, it's there's a lot goes on down there just with the market. And once this thing's built, I think with tourism and Parks and Rec or whatever, whoever's got an event, that's just going to add to the use of that. And I think it's good for the public, especially those Saturdays. They're a 4 or 5 hour event. From start to stop, they're down there, they're open, and they have a lot of people cycling through, and I think that's good.
No, I think this is awesome. I think it adds to, an opportunity for the farmers market to have
I think they'll grow.
I think it'll grow, and I'm excited about this, and I'm hopeful that we can vote on it. Now, Monica, the next question. We'll meet with Marilla soon and talk about a timeline. But the very first thing is they have to submit to get the structure, the metal.
Yes.
That's the big point. And
Yes.
really, until we know the turnaround time on that metal fabrication, then, we really can't set a real timeline. So
That's correct.
could you make that a priority to kind of see if we can get information to share with the court and then we can set a timeline from there?
Yes. Do you have the next meeting of the court?
The next meeting will be on December 28th,
Okay.
and we're meeting at 9 a.m.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
I do have a question.
you.
One other question.
Are the bathrooms
Okay.
in the jail in the lobby? I don't know this.
Yeah, you don't have to go through the jail.
Like, could we then, we have a public building that's 100 feet from where this is going, 200 feet. Could we maybe work with Royals and maybe get an agreement with farmers market or the tourism for a fee? They could use the bathrooms at the detention center. I don't know.
Are they in the lobby? I don't think they're in the lobby.
Are they in the lobby?
I
I don't.
Right past the lobby.
My daughter she works there, and she's used them several times.
They're in the lobby.
It's like, you don't have to go through the jail. It's right when you go in.
You don't have to go into a secure area.
Yeah, I'm with you. So maybe we could work with Darren. I don't know how hard it is for them to open that and get people in to use those, but maybe we, if farmers market $100 a day or something would maybe help offset the cost of using those and get or even an event at night, or car show or whatever.
We certainly have a conversation, yes, sir.
Because there's already a public
Yeah.
building with bathrooms right there.
Yeah.
So
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. This is significant, and I appreciate your all's leadership and moving things forward. It's going to make a big difference. Monica, I'll call you later today, and
Okay.
we'll move forward. And thank you. I know you're happy because you all spent a lot of time in the effort to, what you designed was very nice, and I think it's going to be a big asset to the farmers market and the community.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
excited for the county. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Talk
Bye-bye.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, thank you all for that. Code enforcement, I'm going to turn over to Cam. We shared essentially as an amendment to the current code enforcement, and essentially all that is changing is the notification, the timeline. Instead of 14 days, it goes to notice of violation is not. It goes to 5 days. So I'm going to let Cam read the amendment, and then we'll have any conversation.
All right.
Is this an ordinance?
Yes, so this is first reading.
First reading.
Okay, Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 23 dash, I don't know if you have a number, but
I didn't know about it. I'm sorry. Can I see that?
I think it's 07. No, it's not. Yes, you can.
Here, I got it right here.
Teacher, I'll use it.
Thanks. Number to be determined. An ordinance amending ordinance number 20-07 relating to time to respond to a notice of violation. Whereas Scott Fiscal Court Ordinance number 20-07, an ordinance related to code enforcement, was adopted on October 22nd, 2020. And whereas it is desirable to have uniform code enforcement throughout Scott County such that all property owners throughout Scott County have the same amount of time to respond to a notice of violation. Now therefore be it ordained by the Scott County Fiscal Court as follows. 1. Ordinance number 20-07, Section 1, Page 8, paragraph 8JV is hereby amended to read, if a notice of violation is not remedied within 5 calendar days, the code enforcement officer is authorized to issue a citation. Number 2, this ordinance shall take effect immediately upon passage and publication. First reading approved December the 8th, 2023.
So that,
And change your date, Pam, for the
Is it,
second reading.
is it the, yeah, it's the 28th, right? Yeah, I'll change that.
so that amends that where we have uniformity in the timeline. Does not impact rural agricultural areas because state statute and supersedes
Yeah.
any of that. So we're not impacting any agriculture operations or anybody with any agricultural considerations.
This just empowers the local code enforcement to deal with the high grass in residential areas more quickly.
And it makes it
Yeah.
consistent.
Right.
Question, comment?
So, and I've stated this before, but I want to say it again, and Cam and I have even talked about it. So when they issue, it gives them authorization to issue.
That's correct. It's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory.
So
And,
they still have discretion.
sure, and my biggest issue over the timeline was always in the county, when you get out in the county, there are a lot of absentee owners, and that may not even live in our state, let alone our county. And so, and that's been an issue in the past, that folks have gotten this notice and, well, by the time I got it, I'm way past the deadline, you know, because they were out of town and so forth. So, that's always been my concern when taking it from 14 to 5 days, but I think code enforcement is willing to work with these folks and understand that, because I've had conversation with Mr. Johnson about it. So anyhow, I just want to kind of state that that's not a mandatory, you got to issue one after those days. They still have the opportunity and leeway to work with, especially the absentee landowners.
I'm confident that Mr. Johnson and his staff will be sensitive to that and such. But the uniformity in the residential area was what was the issue brought Magistrate Wallace, and I think this addresses it. Questions or comments, and would there be a motion to accept this?
Is Chad still on there?
Chad is right there. Dr. Wallace? All right, he's giving us some.
Oh, his speaker.
Got the speakers working. Speakers working.
Ground control to birth control.
Just give us a thumbs up there, Magistrate. All right.
Second.
So we have a motion from Chad and a second from Kelly. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes for a first reading. So
And
bring that back on the next meeting.
just to, as a shout out to Stacy, this is something that we talked about like late yesterday, so that's why I didn't know.
All right.
Sorry about that.
I got it.
Yeah. And then next is our White Flag Shelter Agreement. Candace is here. Candace and I have talked, and we talked about this at the work session, the potential of changing. The shelter shall also be open on days when the temperature rises above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. We talked with Mike about this as well. On such days, the shelter will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think that's the main changes in the agreement. And, you know, if it's open, I talked to Candace about, you know, we want some data about, you know, how many people use it. If we don't see it being used, then we would suspend, we'd ask the gathering place to suspend that, and I think that'd be a reasonable request, and I think they would honor it. You've talked to Heather, our new director, and she have any comments or anything? All right. So with that said, any questions about this proposed change to the agreement and renewing the agreement?
Well, with what you just said, Judge, and I think it's in the agreement that homelessness apparently in our county is on the increase, and out of how much it's used, I guess what I'm saying is, are these folks actually Scott County folks, or folks coming in from out of the county? I don't know that answer. I guess what I'm driving at is, I don't want to stop somebody. I want to provide and help folks that are in need for a warm spot or a cool spot, depending on what time of year it is. But my point is, I'm always looking at root cause of whatever. And, homelessness is, if that's true that it's on the increase in Scott County, I'd like to know why and how we could possibly go get to the root cause and in the future help that. You know what I'm saying? Again, I am not opposed to trying to provide an opportunity for folks in freezing weather or in very hot weather from being able to be warm or cool, whatever the case may be. But when I saw that, I think that's in the agreement here that homelessness is on the increase.
It's a whereas at
In
the
the
start.
preamble.
Yeah. It's in the preamble.
Gotcha.
There. Homeless population in Scott County.
So I'm just thinking about looking at the root cause of that as we help these folks. You know what I'm saying?
Candace?
Is that a good question, or did I say that right?
Yeah, so that's my whole job, right? Like, unfortunately, I'm trying to work myself out of a job, I guess. I think there are a lot of things that you could contribute to the cause of homelessness, and there are a lot of people out there doing a lot of research and writing a lot of books on it. I think affordable housing can be contributed to the cause of homelessness. That's my big focus right now, is looking at housing as a solution to homelessness, and not so much that individuals have things that are causing them to become homeless. I think it's a mixture of a lot of things, and a lot of people want to maybe pinpoint drug abuse as a cause of homelessness or domestic violence, but we all know people who have drug abuse issues who are not homeless. We all know people who have experienced domestic violence who are not homeless. So what is the difference in what causes folks to become unhoused versus those who are able to stay housed? So that's a very complicated question.
Yeah,
but it is something that we're working on. And I think that's the hard part of my job, is trying to figure out what solutions we want to do short term and what energy and time and money we want to put towards short term solutions versus long-term digging at the causes and trying to prevent homelessness, because if we focus it all in one area or the other, then we're not, hitting the other one. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. That's a big question, but I'm glad that you're thinking about that, for sure.
It is a big question, and because I do think that you've already mentioned a couple of things. People that are in abusive relationships, and they wind up, one party or the other winds up in a bad spot and nowhere to go. Same thing with this opioid use disorder. Those folks, and I'm sure there are other contributing factors. Sure. And so, but the other concern is I want to take care of Scott County first. And that's why I asked the question, will we be able to determine, are some of these folks just coming in from out of county? I've actually met people years ago that literally told me they travel a circuit to go to these homes, and I'm talking about Cincinnati, Louisville, Lexington. That's what they told me. I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, or most people don't recommend, but I was picking up hitchhikers in inclement weather, and that's what they were doing. That's what they told me, and it was a bad rainy day, so I picked them up, and that's what they told me. That's what they told me they were doing. It's been years ago too, and so. But anyhow, just trying to get to kind of root causes, because I want to take care of our Scott County folks. There's no doubt about it. But it does concern me that people, because we're on two major interstates, and people coming in and out. I don't want those folks to freeze or burn up either. Okay, but just trying to determine. I want to take care of Scott County folks first, and I'd like to know some of the root causes and how we might can help somewhere else, maybe.
Yeah. I think moving forward, we're going to start working on looking at those. And I'm going to come back and talk about an assessment that I would like to get done, and definitely digging into that further. But this short-term solution, I think, is good for right now. And I don't know that it's necessarily becoming more prevalent because people are just traveling here, because our white flag shelter is just hot and happening. But
what you're saying too is within Scott County, you are working to make sure that that population, and the whole population, knows that the White Flag Shelter
Yes.
is a barrier-free option
Yes.
when it goes below 32 degrees, and now when it gets above 95 degrees, the whole population knows about it, and you're going to try to intentionally, in places that, like on the buses.
Yes.
That we talked about at the library, different places. But Candace mentioned on Wednesday there was a Scott United meeting. At that meeting, Mayor Jenkins and the board and I, we discussed the potential of looking at a housing needs assessment. And Scott United passed a motion that they would support a joint venture to look at a housing needs assessment. We're going to try to get some back of the napkin quotes on an estimated cost, and then you'd have to put out an RFP.
Mm-hmm. It actually went live today.
The RFP.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be something for the court to consider a partnership with Scott United and in the city in paying for in probably out of a future budget, and moving forward with getting the data that would help with the affordable housing questions, and then give us recommendations about action items that we can help with affordable housing. I'll give you an example. My son, recent graduate, works full-time as an engineer here in town, and you can't find a place to rent for less than $1,000 a month. And if you're single, starting out, it is a real issue. And it's not just, it's for everybody. It's families trying to find, a unit that has 2 or 3 bedrooms, less than $1,300 a month. I mean, I look in the paper, you cannot find, and look online as well, you cannot find, it is not available. And there's got to be some intentional partnerships developed that help with this issue, because our big thing is bringing more jobs to help offset the cost of services. Well, if you don't have an affordable place that people can lay their head down at night, then it's just like a vicious circle. And so I think it's wise to be looking at what we're trying to look at and then address this. And this is just not Scott County. It's magnified because we're Scott County and because we're our growing rate. The data that I've seen most recently is from 23 to 33, it's 11 to 12% growth
Here.
So we've got to, I think what we're talking about is very wise. So thank you. Any other questions?
One question, how many folks can go into the shelter?
So we are working on that now. The building that we moved is a state building, and so we have to go through their permitting process for them to be able to tell us the occupancy level. So TBD.
But the goalpost was moved on us.
Yes.
Because we originally got feedback that it could be a local
Yes.
inspection, but then let's change that, and we had to go back to state.
Yes.
So let's. The hope is on each side that I'd be shocked if it was less than 20 on each side.
My spatial reasoning is not a thing that I have, so I'll go with your guess.
Okay. So,
Cam,
it was approved for occupancy for a classroom on each side. And
Yes.
I've seen 30 plus kids in those rooms.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and I know that's sitting in a desk, but,
Joe Pat,
mhm.
Cam, Candace wants it to be called the White Flag Shelter, and she explained why, and it makes sense, but it's nowhere in here if you want to.
So we
Just refer, I can do that.
we can amend the agreement to reflect that it is the White Flag Shelter service agreement.
Thank you, Stacy.
Yeah.
I will do that. I'll put in some dates. What is the name of I should know this, the new executive director?
Heather
that's going in
Johnson.
place? What's that?
Heather Johnson. So would there be a motion to approve the amended agreement for the white flag. So Rob Jones, second with Mr. Pratt. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. This next one I shared via email, and I would recommend and ask for your approval of making a new hybrid full-time equivalent position. We have a seasonal worker that's worked at Great Crossing Park. You know, there's so much work there that one person cannot do all the work, picking up trash, mowing, snow removal. Every time it snows, there's still people out there walking on the trails and accessing the park. And it just, coupled with the fact that, you know, JR has a individual that's been on workman's comp since June. This would be not taking anything away from his 30 level, but it would be adding essentially, Jeff, what did we say, 0.33 essentially or thereabouts of a employee, and we'd be making the seasonal employee into a full-time, but it's a hybrid position. They would work March, you know, in the middle of March to the end of October at the park, and then they would transition up and work with JR, help push snow, help do labor duties, and it would be an additional staff person in the winter. I don't think JR would ever say, I don't need an extra one. You always have one down and pushing snow at this time, and you know, when we have storms and stuff, having another extra hand to clean up. And from the reports, it's so hard to find seasonal help, and this individual is a very consistent, a very helpful, very self-starter. So as I said, we would, you know, that seasonal job pays $13.37, and it's been for, you know, approximately 8 months. The recommendation would be to make him full-time, and Jeff shared, you know, we use the $16 an hour figure, and that's where the cost that I shared, $52,000 total. If it was a full year at $16 an hour, the benefits cost being about $22,936. The lowest paid laborer at the road department, I believe, is $17.58 an hour. Is that correct? So I had recommended the $16 an hour. He'd be going from $13.37 to $16 an hour. But if you went to $17.58 an hour, the wage and benefit cost for the position would go from $52,000 to $56,000. So, comments, questions? You know, does anybody have any comments on that? And I would recommend we do this. It helps for continuity, consistency, and then it gives JR, you know, a little extra help when you really need it the most.
So if something came up at the park during the winter, would this guy be able to just go right back and help?
If there was something, you know, something needed at the
water lines
park,
freeze,
yeah,
need help.
yeah, and JR and Tim work hand in hand.
Hand in hand, and we dedicate 2 employees anyway to mow that green space around the park to make it look pretty for the whole county. I mean, the Tim put together.
Yeah, so Tim does the weed eating and like the zero turn, you know, that mowing right around the park, the field. But JR does they have a very nice big batwing finish mower that mows the majority of that acreage and keeps it, you know, it looks so nice. And they work hand in hand, you know, if something was needed. But for the most part, he would be, you know, helping with road department issues up there, because it just.
And like the judge said, people walk no matter if there's 6 inches of snow on those trails, and we will go down there and plow those main trails and everything. This is something him being so familiar with can be a big asset to us in the winter to keep the trails going.
the goal is, and JR and I've driven it, when the sheriff's office gets done, the goal is to make the walking trail a complete circle. So it's a loop down by the creek and then up behind the sheriff's office. And it's just, the park's going to continue to grow and be used more and more. I just think this is a wise thing to do, and it's not a huge cost. And the budget consideration, because of JR's situation with the individual that has been on workman's comp, it's a minimal difference for these next 6 months. And, we don't even know if that individual will be back at the end of January or start of February, don't know when. So having that person, you can use him, right? What else are you going to say?
Mr. Tucker is one of the best employees that Tim has had at Great Cross Park, and we want to retain him.
Yeah, it's hard to keep them once if you only work them part-time to get them back the next year.
Motion.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Now, here's a motion. $16 an hour? $16 an hour right now. All right. That's a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And then my last item, EMA grant. Mike, would you like to comment on that? Realized a grant of $27,000.
Yeah, the Emergency Management Performance Grant was awarded. It's about $2.7 million for the state. Scott County's portion was $27,300 roughly. That's going to pay 50% of my salary until the money runs out, so somewhere into the middle of March. So,
Michelle Ray.
I can. I copied the judge on it, but I will send it to you. So.
And I received that. I received that 2 days ago, and it's kind of. I apologize for not forwarding it to you. Anything else, Mike?
Here, we're just about done with the Leesburg Road site. JR has been working with getting it demolished. I'm going to submit the paperwork to try and get that completed, get it inspected, so that we can close that one out.
Thank JR. Thank you on that very much. I was out there with JR just recently, and just got to put a little dirt down and then go forward, right, JR? If anybody's looking for any bamboo stalks, they're there for the taking. All right. I have no other new business. Any new business from any court member or any of our staff or individuals in the audience?
I do.
Rick Costello.
Unless somebody else does, yeah. I just wanted to go back to, I know I had told the court that Mr. LaPalme was going to be here today, and I had conversations with him because I was also trying to get a gentleman by the name of Robert Capley, and his work schedule wouldn't allow for him to be here today. So I've already talked to the judge, and on January the 25th, that's our Thursday night meeting. I've already talked with Mr. LaPalme, and he's talked with, I've never met Mr. Capley.
December 25th, or December 28th?
January
25th.
Didn't I say January?
You did, but I had in my mind we were bringing them back in December, but we're going to go to January.
No, I'm trying to get past the holidays,
yeah.
and that our Thursday meeting is not Thursday this month,
yeah.
And it's going to be at 9, so that was a conflict. And
sure.
It's our January 25th Thursday meeting, which will be the night. Now we still have to determine
Make sure
whether
it's
it's.
6 o'clock.
Well, we have to.
TBD.
We have to
vote on
I
that.
have told them to put on 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. our time. Because,
Who's on first?
so are we good with that? It's January 25th. That's where, and I'll just.
Blame me for the confusion. I thought we were bringing them back here in December. That's my confusion. The meeting in December is on the 28th.
It is a Thursday.
It's a Thursday, and it's at 9 a.m.
Right.
That meeting.
And I knew that, so I didn't, that was the conflict with Mr. Capley, his work time during the day, you know. So, so I would like to shoot, now, you mentioned this morning, Judge, that maybe we could do a workshop type thing at 6, and then roll right into a meeting, because I would like for the court to make a decision one way or the other the next time we bring these folks in. I've already talked to the net device folks, and I'll share this with you, Judge, and ask for your help in this, if you will. I've talked to a Grant County magistrate and sent them this link to watch this video. I don't know if any of the other guys have gotten a chance. I know Rob said he's watched it. It's an eye-opening video. It's a real-life study that they've done, 5 individuals. When you see that, it will answer a lot of questions that some of you guys have asked me that I really don't know how to answer, but tell you to watch the video. And then one of the participants, if nothing changes, is going to be here on the 25th. And so I'd like to get our sister counties, even Madison County, if they would come down that night. Maybe Judge Deals, Judge Taylor, if they're interested, and I can send them the link, because that movie answers a lot of questions. You see the device being used, and you see it answers a lot of questions, and you see the outcome for those 5 individuals. They track them 8 months later. That's in the video, and so I would like January the 25th. That would be a day we would vote one way or the other on whether or not we're going to partner with the net device folks. So that's my goal, and so I've already talked to the net device folks. In fact, Joe Winston may actually be in town. So if that's happening, I'm trying to get him here in person. All of our questions can get answered, and we can make a decision. That would be my hope.
All right. Yes, sir.
And I'll share the link to the movie's called The Final Fix. And I'll be honest with you, when I was told that name, the first time I went, what? Final Fix. But it's an appropriate name. But it's a link on, what do you call it? Amazon Prime. I have to get my adult children, which one of them's here right now, to hook me up on all that stuff.
Does he wear you out? We'll do that and look forward to it. And I appreciate your leadership and passion, because your heart has been to try to help people that are sick, and that's the bottom line.
Well, that was a statement that was made, I believe, by Judge Taylor from Madison County at our last training session, and he was told that by a young lady who is going, who's addicted, and she said, "We're not bad people wanting to get good. We're sick people wanting to get well. They're wanting to get off of heroin, whatever it might be, or they're wanting to get off the other medications that are not illegal, Suboxone, methadone, I don't know. This device works in all of those areas, and you can see it if you watch that movie. And these people wanting to get well, that was very impactful when Judge Taylor, and you know how active I've been in this, but when he said that, I go, wow, because, yeah, you can see it. You can see it in people's eyes, so.
Anything else? Would there be a motion to adjourn? Motion.
I gotta go to work, Judge.
All those in favor? We're adjourned.
Yes, sir.
Get the text. Get the text from me.
All right.